Volume 27 The New Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Tournament, Chapter 265 Tough Donga. Jiang Nanan also rushed behind Wang Donga. Everyone encircled her and treated her like an enemy. Wang Qiu said coldly, I won't hand him over unless you let me say my piece. I want to let all of you know what he did. Bei Bei stepped forward and was about to act up, but Wang Donga immediately lifted her arms and shook her head at the rest. Don't be like that. Let her speak. I can handle it. The sad look in Wang Donga's eyes became even more intense. However, she wasn't in the mood to pick on Wang Qiu. Huo Yuao had returned. He had finally returned. Even though she didn't know how he was, he must be fine since Wang Qiu claimed that he wouldn't die. It was fine as long as he was alive. It was still better than Tang and Ma Xiaotao, who were both still missing. She had already thrown everything else from her mind. As long as Huo Yuao was safe, she was willing to accept anything that he had with Wang Qiu. The 10 days of waiting had taught her one thing, but she was willing to do anything in exchange for Huo Yuao's safety. Donga, you are too kind. Bei Bei sighed. However, he didn't go against her wishes. Wang Donga revealed a sad smile and said, it's fine since he has returned. I'm satisfied since he's returned safely. Wang Qiu, tell me what you want to say. Wang Qiu scanned everyone coldly and said, from your looks, all of you seem to think that I eloped with him. Humph, all of you are his good friends. Is he really like all of you imagine him to be? Everyone was stunned by her words. Yes. They had been thinking about what had happened between Huo Yuao and Wang Qiu after they left together. Wang Donga was also stunned. She saw an outraged look in Wang Qiu's eyes. Wang Qiu said coldly, I feel bad for him. In the past 10 days, he has almost died 3 times. However, he pressed on every time. I tried to stop him from taking risks, but he resisted and continued to proceed stubbornly. Do you really think he eloped with me? Shu Sanqi furrowed his brow. How come you left together? He even left without saying anything. Wang Qiu replied, he left without saying anything because he was anxious. I don't know how he found out Wang Donga was sick. Shu Sanqi's eyes widened. You're the sick one. Wang Qiu focused her gaze, and a sharp light flashed within them. However, she still suppressed her anger. He told me that Wang Donga was sick. In addition, he even said that her life was in danger. That day, he left Shrek Academy on his own. I caught him leaving and pursued him, seeing that he was in a rush. However, who knew that I would end up pursuing him for thousands of miles? That's why I went missing with him. I hadn't expected that he could go to this extent for another person. Do you see the flower on his face? He almost sacrificed his life to bring it back. It's an immortal grass called the yearning heartbroken grass. It can cure her injuries. Wang Donga was stunned. She didn't even know that she was sick or injured. However, Wang Qiu sounded very convincing. She also didn't know what to do since Huo Yuao was in this state. Wang Qiu lifted her hand and unbuttoned Huo Yuao's sleeves. Everyone was shocked when they saw his hands. Huo Yuao's hands were covered in bandages. The thick bandages were half stained with fresh blood. Do all of you know how this injury came about? In order to pluck the yearning heartbroken flower, he forced himself to swallow spring water that contained ultimate fire to counter the ultimate ice in his body. When his hands cupped the water, they were badly burned. His throat, windpipe and even internal organs were greatly burned from the water. He was on the brink of death. Wang Donga's figure shook slightly. An unhealthy red appeared on her face, and tears streamed down her cheeks. At that point, he still used his eyes to tell me to bring this yearning heartbroken grass back to treat your injury. If not for the fact that I used an herb to preserve his life, he would have died. Wang Qiu recounted everything that had happened to the both of them over the past 10 days. After hearing her accounting of events, everyone's expressions changed greatly. Jiang Nanan and Xiaoxiao were even crying. They hadn't expected Huo Yuao to experience so many ordeals over the past 10 days. He had even been on the brink of death several times before he finally managed to pluck the yearning heartbroken grass. When they heard that the ultimate ice in his body had raged out and the blood that he spat out had frozen up, leaving him no choice but to swallow the blazing sunspring water, Bei Bei, Hikachu and Shu Sanqi's eyes also welled up. What kind of love was this? Huo Yuao used his actions to tell them how much he loved Wang Donga. Wang Donga stopped crying as she heard more and more of what Wang Qiu said. Her body was trembling non-stop, shaking uncontrollably. You are. Her mind was only filled with his name right now. You are, my Yuao. For me, you actually. What injury? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you let me face all this with you? You are. At this moment, Wang Donga was heartbroken. Wah, she spat out blood, and a few drops landed on the yearning heartbroken grass on the side of Huo Yuao's face. The yearning heartbroken grass shook slightly and absorbed a few drops of fresh blood. Following this, a dim red glow emanated from the flower. The red glow formed 2 rings in the air, which looped over Huo Yuao and Wang Donga. A weird intent was also released by the yearning heartbroken grass. There were no words, but Shrek 7 monsters and Wang Qiu could understand what it meant. It roughly meant together through life and death. The contract of love. If one died, both would die together. The lives of these lovers would be connected. There would be no abandonment, and their love would carry on for eternity. Wang Donga had formed a strange contract with Huo Yuao at this moment, with the yearning heartbroken grass as a witness. Wang Qiu was stunned. She could also sense the intent from the yearning heartbroken grass. Her face turned even more dismal and she looked a little lost. She put Huo Yuao down carefully, right in front of Wang Donga. He only has you in his heart. Even though we look similar, I was never in his heart. When he plucked the yearning heartbroken grass, I knew that I had fallen in love with this man. I am deeply in love with him. I feel very tormented that I was a step late. There can never be a second woman in his heart. You must take care of yourself for him. You must take care of him, too. The herb that he consumed will help him to recover slowly. However, I'm not sure whether he will be able to fully recover. Wang Qiu paused as she finished those words. She took a deep look at Wang Donga and said, You've won. In his eyes, I was probably never your competitor, and you probably never had any competitors before. Love him properly. Wang Donga received Huo Yuao carefully. She hugged him as she bowed to Wang Qiu. Thank you. Thank you for saving his life. If you need my help one day, I'll do anything to help you. Wang Qiu didn't say anything. She only turned and walked away. It was only when the Shrek 7 monsters couldn't see her that her tears started to stream down her face. She quickened her footsteps, as she didn't want others to see her weakness. However, she was also heartbroken. Wang Donga hugged Huo Yuao and felt the weak undulation of his life aura. She lowered her head slowly and pressed her lips to Huo Yuao's dry lips. Her lips were very cold and slightly moist. Yuao, I'm your wife from now on. No matter whether or not you recover, I'll always be your wife. I love this contract. As long as you are alive, I'll wait for you my entire life. If you die, I'll leave with you. In the other world, I'll continue to wait on you. Forever and ever. Yuao, I love you. Wang Donga's voice was very gentle, but it was the gentleness of her voice that made the rest emotional. Bei Bei, Shu Sanqi, and Hikachu couldn't control the tears in their eyes. Jiang Nanan leapt into Shu Sanqi's arms. Xiaoxiao also did the same thing to Hikachu. They were bawling their eyes out. Wang Donga didn't cry. There was only a look of gentleness in her big, beautiful eyes. She carefully carried Huo Yuao and turned around slowly as she looked at the rest. Eldest senior, can I trouble you to find some food? I want to eat some food. Third senior, please help me get the best healing type soul master in the academy. I'll bring Yuao back first. Even though she still seemed very pale, and her lips were still stained with blood, the look in her eyes shocked the rest of them. She suddenly looked very tough and resolute. Yes, Huo Yuao was critically injured, and it was unknown whether he would fully recover. All right, let's work separately. Nanan, Xiaoxiao, follow Donga. Bei Bei rubbed off his own tears and started giving out instructions. Wang, Donga was also in bad shape right now. With Jiang Nanan and Xiaoxiao following her, they could help her at least. Wang, Donga didn't reject his suggestion and didn't rush off, either. She only carried Huo Yuao and slowly walked over to the shore of the Sea God's Pavilion. Jiang Nanan understood her intentions and quickly summoned a ferry. They made their way to Sea God's Island, before heading into the Sea God's Pavilion. After returning to her room, Wang Donga started to get busy. She got a clean blanket for Huo Yuao before inviting Jiang Nanan and Xiaoxiao to leave the room. She was trembling slightly as she removed Huo Yuao's clothes and bandages. After that, she used clean water to wash his entire body before giving him clean clothing. She also rebandaged his wounds. At this moment, she didn't care about her own shyness anymore. Finally, Wang Donga took the yearning heartbroken grass from Huo Yuao's face and placed it beside his pillow. Elder Sun, Yan Shaosh, Kai Maya and a few elders from the Sea God's Pavilion quickly made their way over. Huo Yuao's injuries shocked all of them. When they heard that Huo Yuao had received these injuries for Wang Donga, they felt a little helpless. For love, he was willing to go to such an extent. Where is this rascal Huo Yuao? Elder Sun couldn't help but curse. Wang Dongga stood up hurriedly and said respectfully, Elder Sun. Elder Sun was furious as he walked into the room. He quickly came to the bedside and pressed his hand against Hua Yua's mouth, sensing his condition. He only lifted his hand after a while. He's in a bad state. Elder Sun furrowed his brows and couldn't help but curse. This rascal. Why didn't he report something like this to the academy? Dongga, who told him that you were injured? Let me take a look. As he spoke, he lifted his hand and pressed it against Wang Dongga's shoulder. After sensing for a brief moment, he revealed a weird look on his face. There's no injury, but there's a weird force in your body. It doesn't seem like soul power. However, my power strangely can't seem to capture it. If we are talking about an internal injury, this must be it. Elder Zhuang, take a look at him. As he spoke, Elder Sun gestured to another elder. This elder was also a member of the Sea God's Pavilion. He cultivated a plant-type martial soul and was skilled in healing. Elder Zhuang came to the bedside and also pressed his hand against Hua Yua's mouth. Soul rings started to rise from his feet. 2 yellow, 2 purple and 5 black rings appeared. He was a tidal Douluo. Vibrant-looking green vines spread from his body and moved around Hua Yua. Very soon, his entire body was engulfed by the vines. An intense life aura was released by the vines as Elder Zhuang's soul rings lit up. The vines were also shining with different colors of light. After a time, Elder Zhuang retracted the vines. He gently shook his head and said, he's indeed in bad shape. His injuries were very serious. Most importantly, there's a blazing heat in his body that doesn't belong. It clashes with his ultimate ice. Apart from his own ultimate ice soul power, there's also origin energy in his body. It's all very messy. Under such a situation, the ultimate ice can't expel the heat or neutralize it. Furthermore, his internal organs are also badly burned. Honestly speaking, he should have died from such serious injuries. However, there's a force in his body sustaining his life. He must have eaten some herb that's helping him recuperate. It's just that the speed of recuperation is very slow due to the clash between ice and fire in his body. Elder Sun said, what should we do then? Can you treat him? Elder Zhuang shook his head and answered, no, my treatment is mainly carried out by pouring in life power, but his own life power isn't weak, so there's no need for that. In addition, we can't just recklessly treat his injuries. If too much soul power is poured in, the unstable forces in his body might be released, and his life might be in danger. To him, the best treatment is to rest. He'll wake up when the herb heals the injuries in his body, and he'll also be able to control the circulation of his soul power when he wakes up. His injuries will also slowly recover then. It's the same for his hands. It's better for him to recover on his own. Elder Sun asked, will he be able to make a full recovery? Elder Zhuang replied, I can't tell. It's too messy. How could his body accumulate so much origin energy? While it's good stuff, we can't have too much of it. Not only is he gravely injured, he seems to have taken too many tonics. Whether or not he can make a full recovery will be up to him, but I'm sure his life isn't in danger anymore. Elder Sun sighed and commented, this rascal is really worrying. Elder Zhuang, I'll have to trouble you over the next few days. Elder Zhuang nodded and said, don't worry, he's the future pillar of our academy. I'll help him recover no matter what. I'll check on him twice a day from now. As his body's condition changes, I'll adjust my treatment accordingly. Elder Sun sighed and nodded. That would be great. Bei Bei and the rest rushed over at this moment. Bei Bei even brought some food for Wang Dongga, a bowl of chicken soup. It was nutritious and easily digestible. As the eldest senior, Bei Bei had always been very meticulous. Wang Dongga didn't stand on ceremony. Even though Hua Yua was critically injured now, she was in a good mood. It was just that her heart was also aching at the same time. Whatever it was, Hua Yua was finally better. At least he was still alive. He did everything for her, which had landed him in this state. As Wang Dongga thought of all this, her tears were filled with happiness even though her heart was still aching at his predicament. Tough. She had to be tough. Although she was in pain, she didn't continue crying. She drank the chicken soup to replenish her own energy. However, her eyes never left Hua Yua. Elder Sun left with the elders. Jiang Nanan and Xia Xia wanted to stay behind to help Wang Dongga look after Hua Yua, but Wang Dongga declined their offer. She told them that she could cope on her own. Bei Bei was relieved after watching her consume an entire bowl of chicken soup and a plate of green vegetables. After all, they were all soul masters, and Wang Dongga was even a soul emperor. Although she hadn't been taking care of herself over the past few days, she would recover quickly as long as she was willing to eat and watch her body. After her meal, Wang Dongga's complexion improved. She dragged the chair to the bedside and sat down cross-legged on it, entering deep meditation. If she wanted to take care of Hua Yua and help him recover, she had to make sure she was fine herself first. Wang Dongga was also one of the best young soul masters at Shrek Academy right now. If she remained calm and composed, her abilities weren't inferior to Hua Yua's. Over the past 10 days, her internal ordeals and poor health had caused her to become much weaker. After spitting out blood earlier, she was extremely weak right now. After eating, she had to recuperate, too. However, it wasn't always the case that she could enter her deep meditative state at will. After 10 minutes, she reopened her eyes. They were filled with tenderness and heartache. She was unable to calm herself down enough to enter deep meditation. Once she shut her eyes, she thought of Hua Yua. Her ears were also echoing with Wang Qiu's words. When she recalled how Hua Yua drank the boiling water for her, tears would well up in her eyes. You are really silly. You are really silly. She couldn't tolerate her yearning for him. She removed her outer clothes and went over to the bed. She carefully avoided Hua Yua's injured hands and laid down beside him. She felt his aura and shut her eyes. It was very weird, but she felt much more peaceful as she rested her body against his. It was an unprecedented sense of tranquility. Hua Yua's heartbeat was slightly weak. One had to listen carefully to tell that it was beating. Wang Dongga's tears started to dry up. A satisfied smile surfaced on her face. She fell asleep just like that. Very soon, her breathing calmed down. She didn't see the yearning heartbroken grass exuding a dim red light. The gentle red light engulfed their bodies, and its fragrance drifted away and entered their bodies as they inhaled it. Someone else was crying quietly as Wang Dongga fell asleep in Hua Yua's arms. Wang Qiu stood in front of her room and looked at the sky outside, which was getting dark. Her tears started to fall again. It's such a torment loving someone, especially when you know you can't be with that person. Hua Yuao, would you have loved me like you love her if I had met you first? Why didn't I meet you earlier? Heavens. Why do you have to play such a trick on me? Wasn't Wang Donggo guy? Morning. When Wang Dongga opened her eyes, she was stunned to discover that she had slept from the previous day's evening to today's morning. She had not slept so sweetly in a very long time. Although she was still feeling a little fatigued, she felt much refreshed. She looked at the man beside her close up. He was still in a deep sleep and didn't look like he was about to wake up anytime soon. His heartbeat was still very calm. Wang Dongga carefully checked on his condition. After ascertaining that he was fine, she pecked his cheek and got up. After washing up, she began to help Hua Yua clean up. She washed him up before gently massaging his muscles. After that, she changed him into clean clothes. Hua Yua couldn't eat anything. Before Elder Sun left yesterday, he had left a bottle of pills behind. He had asked Wang Dongga to feed Hua Yua. These pills had been created using more than 10 types of valuable ingredients and would be sufficient to replenish his body. After Wang Dongga retrieved the bottle of pills, she placed one of the pills into her mouth before kissing him and transferred the medicinal fluid into his mouth with her tongue. Her face was red. For an inexperienced young lady like her, this was too embarrassing. However, there was a determined look in her eyes. As she thought of how Hua Yua was ready to give up his life for her, she put her embarrassment aside. I'm his future wife. What's there to be shy about? After finishing this, Wang Dongga went out to eat. After eating, she returned to Hua Yua's side and entered deep meditation. She finally managed to enter deep meditation this time. She changed Hua Yua's clothes twice a day, fed him medicine and massaged him thrice a day. She also washed his body twice a day. When night fell, she stopped meditating and just slept beside him. Elder Zhuang came to check on Hua Yua twice a day. As promised, Hua Yua's physical condition seemed to be recovering faster than expected. The medicinal effect that was maintaining his life was very strong, and it lasted for a long time, too, enabling his internal injuries to heal quickly. Elder Zhuang told Wang Dongga to talk more to Hua Yua so that he would wake up faster. Once he woke up, he could control some of his soul power, and his body would heal even more quickly. Night fell, and Wang Dongga continued laying beside Hua Yua. She caressed his face and muttered into his eyes, Yuao, I'm Dongga. I've seen the medicinal herb that you brought back. Where did you find out about my injury? Do I really have an internal injury? I didn't even know. Yuao, I miss you so much. I really want to hear your voice. You'll get better. No matter what, I'll be by your side to take care and wait on you. Will you wake up? You've been sleeping for too long. As long as you wake up, I'll promise you anything. Even if you want to get intimate with me, I won't object to it. I'll let you hug me to sleep every night, okay? Isn't that what you've always wished for? From today onwards, I'll accompany you like that to sleep. I'm already your wife. This is my responsibility. In fact, do you know that I'm very willing to sleep with you? I feel especially safe when I sleep with you. I feel very comfortable. You Al, wake up. I really miss you. I really miss you. As she finished speaking, Wang Donga was already sobbing a little. She opened Hua Yuao's mouth and looked at his throat. It was completely scarlet red, as if his flesh was squirming and growing. The medicinal herb Wang Hua had given him had a very strong healing effect on his injuries. Elder Zhuang had also commented that it was a miracle when he saw it. Perhaps the magical herb's strength could restore Hua Yuao's voice. When Wang Donga saw Hua Yuao's throat, she started wailing. He must be in a lot of pain. He was so deeply in love that he had swallowed boiling water so that he could spit out blood that wasn't frozen. Even Wang Donga didn't know when she fell asleep. When she was sleeping, her tear stains were still on her face. The days slowly passed. Wang Donga took good care of Hua Yuao. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. Hua Yuao was still sleeping. Hua Yuao's injuries had already healed after 10 days. Even his burnt hands and vocal cords had been restored. His heartbeat also became stronger. Everything was progressing well. The tournament was approaching, but Hua Yuao hadn't awoken yet. Wang Donga was crying less and less these days. She became calmer as Hua Yuao's body slowly recovered. She was content to wait on him every day. She would talk to him for at least an hour every day and gently call his name to wake him up. It was now only a month to the tournament. The rest of Shrek's 7 monsters were stepping up their preparations and cultivations. Without Hua Yuao as their main control type soul master, it was going to be an arduous task to become champions in this tournament. The inclusion of Sect changed everything. They were going to meet much stronger opponents. Wang Hua also came to visit Hua Yuao a few times. Wang Donga didn't stop her from doing so. On the contrary, she hosted her very passionately. Every time Wang Hua came, she didn't speak. She only stood by the bedside and looked at Hua Yuao for a while before leaving silently. Wang Donga could see the sadness in her eyes. However, some things couldn't be shared. She pitied Wang Hua, but there was only one Hua Yuao. He was her man. Another 5 days passed. Hua Yuao had been back for half a month, and his injuries had already healed. Only the 2 waves of soul power were still conflicting in his body. Wang Donga didn't dare to use her soul power to help him recover. She was worried that it might be counter-effective. She would rather he recovered slowly than take a risk. Hua Yuao had grown slightly fatter after lying down for the past 15 days. The medicinal effect was pretty good. Wang Donga fed him his medicine through her mouth every day before giving him some water. Hua Yuao's body stayed in good condition under her care. Evening. It was time for her to speak to him again. Yuao, did you know? I ate 2 buns tonight. So many, right? I'm afraid that I'll grow fat. Wang Donga lowered her head as she spoke and looked down at her slim waist. Today's canteen food was especially delicious. Don't worry, I'll take care of myself. For you, I won't harm my body anymore. When you wake up, I'll let you see a healthy Donga. Will you be very happy because of this? I'll let you see a prettier Donga. Wang Donga continued speaking with a smile on her face. Did you know? Sometimes I'm not in a rush for you to wake up. The past few days have been fruitful for me. I love waiting on you. You were the one taking care of me all this while. You were also the one who cleaned our dorm room. It's my turn now. I know you've sacrificed a lot for me over these few years. However, you didn't know I was a girl back then. You really are a fool. We were living together for such a long time, but you didn't realize. Come to think of it, I still want to mock you for that. Oh right, Elder Senior and the rest have been cultivating tirelessly. However, everything is affected greatly because you're not around. Furthermore, I can't compete because you are in this state. I told Elder Senior that I'd be staying behind with you, and he agreed to my request. We are all representing the Tang Sect this time. Elder Senior said that Nana can be our first substitute. She's quite good. We can also make up our numbers by asking someone else from the sect. It would be great if you could wake up though. Even though you can't compete, everyone will still be in good spirits with your support. Oh, right. I haven't fed you your medicine. I'll talk to you after feeding you. Wang Donga retrieved the bottle and placed a pill into her mouth. As usual, she fed him through her mouth. She was used to it after half a month. She used the tip of her tongue to force Hua Yuao's teeth open before pressing her tongue against his. It was easier that way. Everything progressed very smoothly as usual. However, she felt a slight touch on her tongue as she tried to pull it back. She was stunned for a moment. Following this, she understood what was going on and quickly hugged Hua Yuao. She continued to reach her tongue in and touched the tip of his tongue again. Wang Donga was trembling slightly in agitation. Was he about to wake up? However, his tongue had stopped moving. Wang Donga didn't garner any reaction even though she used her tongue to touch the tip of his again. Was it a false feeling? Wang Donga was unconvinced. When she retracted her tongue, she looked slightly disappointed. She turned around and gently rubbed at the tears that flowed from her eyes. Yuao, when are you going to wake up? At this point, a weak and hoarse voice sounded behind her. Again. Kiss. Wang Donga's body stiffened. In the next instant, she turned around and saw a pair of dull eyes. However, those eyes were looking at her gently. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.